So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim.
Fans are going crazy at the WNBA referees' absurd justifications for targeting Caitlin Clark while shielding her attackers, which are somehow much worse than we anticipated when they released their official report on the Connecticut Sun debacle. This revelation validates all of our suspicions regarding dishonest officiating in the league.
Why was JC Sheldon's foul upgraded to flagrant one? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that is a flagrant one? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary? There was a wind-up, and it was to the face. The three of them that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you have described a flagrant 2.
Do you believe the WNBA is purposefully attempting to undermine Caitlin Clark after witnessing the referees' pitiful justifications? Let me explain this complete farce, because every single explanation makes the officiating appear worse than it already was. The official referee report from the Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever game was just released, and I'm here to tell you that it's the most damning piece of evidence we've ever seen about corrupt WNBA officiating. These officials didn't just fail at their jobs. They revealed themselves to be completely biased against Caitlin Clark while also shielding the players who attacked her. The officials virtually acknowledged everything that the spectators had been yelling about, yet they somehow believed their explanations made sense. It's like watching someone admit to a crime while maintaining their innocence. Let's start by discussing their justification for calling JCS Sheldon's eye-gouging attack on Clark a flagrant 1 rather than the obvious flagrant 2 and ejection. The referee should have stated that Sheldon's foul was needless, with winding up an impact to Clark's face that could cause injury. Read that again slowly, because they only explained why they called it a flagrant 1.
Unnecessary contact. Wind up and unnecessary. The two of those can be a flagrant 2. And face. You have described why was it a flagrant 2. You have just described a flagrant 2 as your answer for why it was upgraded to a flagrant 1. You have just described the flagrant.
Unnecessary contact, wind-up, and injury potential are 2 requirements for a flagrant 2. The referees explained why it wasn't a flagrant 2 by actually listing all 3 components. It would be like declaiming someone committed murder while defending your decision to just charge them with jaywalking. Their utter lack of reason reveals how predetermined their choice was. The fact that Sheldon's attack had nothing to do with basketball and that Clark was dribbling with her left hand when Sheldon clawed her right eye makes it even more infuriating. This wasn't an unintentional collision during a basketball play. Rather, it was a calculated attempt to hurt the league's biggest star, but the referees managed to downplay it. Let's now look at their pitiful justification for not ejecting Marina Maberry after running across the court to body check Clark to the ground during a dead ball situation. The referee stated that Maberry's contact did not qualify for a severe penalty and did not escalate to the point of dismissal. Apparently, as long as it's directed at Caitlin Clark, assault during a dead ball is not considered. Even casual fans were shouting for her removal in real time because the Maberry incident was so blatantly outrageous. She had no basketball-related reason to be near Clark, much less perform a body check. This is where the report becomes completely absurd. These corrupt referees somehow managed to give Caitlin Clark a technical foul for reacting in an unsportsmanlike manner after being clawed in the eye and body checked to the ground. It was pure retaliation intended to intimidate and possibly injure, but in their opinion, that's just good old-fashioned basketball. These referees are not a piece of profile from 4-6 clients. It is not sportsmanlike to be attacked and then hold your wounded eye while attempting to flee your attackers. What was she meant to do in that circumstance?
Can you specifically detail what you mean by get control of the game, just to be in your words?
Get control of the game is call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Right, and consistently call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Okay, not just if somebody swings and misses, right? Consistently call the fouls.
The referees effectively punished Clark for being the victim of assault. She was scratched in the eye, belib, and then blindsided by Sheldon while holding her injured eye. It seems that the referees did not take this abuse quietly enough, which is the most ridiculous example of victim blaming. The referees thought Tina Charles's technical foul explanation was similarly strange. Pointing at someone and moving at them now becomes unsportsmanlike behavior deserving of a technical foul since Charles went towards Caitlin in an unsportsmanlike manner, yet body-checking someone to the ground and clawing their eye is considered standard basketball contact. The Sophie Cunningham Flagrant 2 explanation was the only one that made sense, which ironically demonstrated how incorrect all the other calls were when they claimed her touch was needless and excessive, which was unquestionably the case. The double standard is so blatant that it is offensive. In response to what had been done to Clark, Sophie seized Sheldon by the neck. The distinction is that Sophie's conduct was rightly called for, whereas the initial assaults were downplayed. The referees acknowledged that they lost control of the game and claimed that it escalated because they had not handled the previous incidents appropriately. However, rather than accepting responsibility for their mistakes, they found ways to place the blame on everyone but the players who actually caused the issues. Lindsay Allen's ejection for fighting was another joke. She became involved in the altercation after Sophie pursued Sheldon, but her contribution to the game was insignificant in comparison to what others had done. Nevertheless, she was ejected, while Mabry, who carried out the most heinous assault, was allowed to continue playing. The selective enforcement was glaringly apparent. When reporters attempted to get Clark to comment on the officiating, Coach Stephanie White handled the situation flawlessly during the post-game press conference. She shielded her star player from having to deal with the political minefield of berating referees while making it apparent that the officiating was unacceptable. White's remarks regarding the referees were devastating because they were delivered with professional restraint, but were damning nonetheless. She claimed that the officials knew things were getting out of control from the first quarter, but were unable to control the situation. In essence, she accused them of being incompetent while preserving plausible deniability. The cruelest part of White's remarks was when she claimed that everyone in the league was improving except for the officials. She complimented the players on their increased strength, speed, and athleticism before jokingly claiming that the referees hadn't kept up with the game's development. It was diplomatic destruction. White's strategy was brilliant because she strengthened the league and its players while blaming the referees. She didn't disparage the WNBA or other teams. Instead, she made it apparent that the only problem was officiating proficiency, which makes it more difficult for the league to brush off her concerns as prejudiced grievances. Every coach in the league has been griping about the refereeing, demonstrating that this is more than simply an Indiana fever issue. When everyone agrees that the referees are not doing their jobs well, it becomes impossible to write this off as team-specific bias or sour grapes. The issue is systemic and evident to all parties involved. What's even more frustrating is that it was entirely avoidable. If the referees had simply ejected Sheldon following her eye-gouging attack, none of the drama that followed would have occurred. Sophie Cunningham wouldn't have felt the need to retaliate, and the game could have gone on without incident. Instead, their failure to appropriately punish the initial assault created a situation where players felt they had to police themselves. By making it clear that attacking Clark would have repercussions, Sophie effectively performed the referee's duties for them. She took one for the team because the officials wouldn't protect their star player. Throughout her second season, Clark's calling pattern has been continuously problematic. She frequently makes contact with other players, which would result in flagrant fouls for them, and her reactions to being attacked in some way call for technical fouls. Basketball fans worldwide are watching how the WNBA handles its biggest star and find it embarrassing when officials openly discriminate against your most marketable player. This undermines the league's credibility globally, and the social media response to this referee report has been overwhelmingly negative for the WNBA. When your officiating becomes a laughingstock, it affects the perceived legitimacy of competition results. The double standard is so entrenched that it's become predictable. What's especially troubling about this whole situation is how it interferes with Clark's ability to play her natural game. Knowing that officials won't treat her fairly, she must change how she plays to avoid getting hurt, which lowers the standard of basketball for everyone. It is concerning to observe the precedent this sets for upcoming games because it creates a risky dynamic if players know they can target Clark without suffering major repercussions while anyone who stands up for her is removed. The referees have effectively removed Clark's protection and painted a bullseye on her back. This officiating bias has astounding business ramifications. The fact that this occurred during a nationally televised game only makes it worse. Clark is the most popular player in women's basketball, drawing millions of spectators and packing arenas. When referees put her in situations that could hurt her or impair her performance, they are jeopardizing the league's most valuable asset. The fact that casual viewers watched Clark get assaulted while the referees punished her for being a victim isn't exactly the kind of content that fosters enduring audience devotion. There should be severe repercussions for the referee crew's actions during this game. In essence, their official report acknowledges a number of shortcomings while attempting to defend blatantly biased choices. When public servants reveal themselves in such a way, accountability ought to be required. The WNBA couldn't have come at a worse time. The league is currently attempting to negotiate new media rights agreements and position itself as a respectable professional sports league. So when prospective partners witness this level of officiating dysfunction, it seriously casts doubt on the league's ability to handle the situation. Comparable circumstances in other professional sports make it difficult to discover anything as obviously skewed. Even in leagues when officiating is problematic, referees rarely publicly acknowledge their mistakes, while also placing the blame on the people who are harmed. Clark should be concentrating on improving her game and helping her team compete for championships, but instead she's dealing with referees who seem determined to make her job as difficult as possible. This level of incompetence is practically unprecedented, and it's especially frustrating that she has to deal with this garbage during her second season. The way this situation was handled contrasts sharply with similar incidents involving other players. Usually, when less well-known players fight, the referees resolve the conflict swiftly and fairly, but when Clark is involved, things seem to get out of hand and are handled poorly. The matter is also being noticed by the international basketball community, as foreign leagues and players' perceptions of American women's basketball as a whole are impacted by the WNBA's treatment of its biggest star. This type of bias is not limited to a single organization. This referee report's most frustrating aspect is how it validates what supporters have been alleging about biased officiating. The references basically acknowledged that they had treated Clark differently, but they felt that their justifications somehow justified what they had done. When your own officials reveal their bias in their official explanations, it's like admitting to a crime but maintaining your innocence. The long-term harm to the WNBA's reputation is incalculable. Fans begin to doubt if competition results are genuine or predetermined, undermining the legitimacy of every game they officiate. The WNBA still has a long way to go in terms of professional officiating standards, as evidenced by the fact that we are even having this discussion. Successful sports leagues don't have referees who publicly acknowledge bias while attempting to defend it. Instead, they keep up the illusion of expertise and fairness. This referee report, which offers written evidence of what fans have been complaining about biased officiating while also making the problem worse with absurdly poor justifications, will likely go down as one of the most damning documents in WNBA history. Sports commentators, business experts, and casual observers have all expressed disbelief at the referee's explanations in the immediate aftermath of this report's release, which has been devastating for the league's reputation. When officiating turns into a national embarrassment, you have serious institutional issues. Going forward, this circumstance will probably affect how other teams play Clark because if they know the referees won't adequately protect her, some players may be motivated to push the lines, which puts everyone in danger. The most infuriating aspect of this entire catastrophe is how needless it was. If the referees had only performed their duties effectively, there would have been no controversy at all. Instead, their mistakes led to a situation that harmed several players, coaches, and the league itself. This referee report serves as irrefutable proof of the WNBA's bias against Caitlin Clark, and when people reflect on how the league handled its biggest star years from now, it will be Exhibit A in the case for institutional dysfunction and corruption. The referee report simply confirmed everything we have been saying about corrupt WNBA officiating. They literally acknowledged bias while attempting to defend it, and fans are incensed at the double standards. After this catastrophe, the league's reputation is in ruins. What did you think of their pitiful justifications? Hit the like button. For more truth, subscribe and share your ideas in the comment section below.